Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. I am Chase Sr. Thank you so much for joining us. And coming up on today's show, the Birds signing a wide receiver to the practice squad. We have more A.J. Brown drama to get into, and I have some thoughts on this. And also, Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles' former defensive coordinator, now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, will make his return to Philadelphia. What went wrong with the whole tampering situation, which kind of screwed over the Eagles? We'll explore that as well. But first, we're about to flip the page to 2024. And one thing that I'm doing at my house, I'm clearing out my closet with a bunch of old clothes so that I can kind of feel refreshed a little bit because I want to go into 2024 lightly. What I've also done, I've gotten rid of clothes that I don't really like, and I've added to my wardrobe with Rhone. You can do the same, and you get 20% off if you use the code CHATSPORTS. Why I like Rhone, I'm wearing their shirt right now. This is a part of the commuter collection. This is one of their button-ups. I've rocked some of their polos here on the show. Their pants are also awesome. This is high-quality men's clothing. It's breathable, stretchable fabric, as you can see here. No need to go to the dry cleaner because the more that you wear these, the more time that they sit on a clothes hanger, the more that the wrinkles actually release. They have anti-odor technology as well. You don't want to be stinky if you're going out on a date with the lovely lady or a significant other, and they have everything from dress shirts to the aforementioned polos to pants and shorts, 20% off, Rhone.com/chatsports. To the Eagles roster move that they made today, Philadelphia adding a wide receiver. Who is it? Griffin Hebert. He has been added to the Eagles practice squad. And you look at the height and the weight there. He is a pretty intriguing athlete, and because of him standing at 6'1" and weighing in at 239 pounds, it's a very interesting build right there. I'm about 6 foot, $180, so he has nearly 60 pounds on me. He's basically a wide receiver tight end tweener, and you think about what he could possibly add to a team at the NFL level. You know what screams and what comes to mind when I think about a player like this? Trey Burton, who when he went to Florida was a quarterback and played a little H-back, played a little tight end, and he kind of fits that type of size profile that I'm talking about here. He signed with the Seahawks as an undrafted free agent. He played his college ball at Louisiana Tech, 3 catches for 21 yards in the preseason. You put him down the seam, you use him as a fullback, H-back. We know that Philadelphia doesn't really use a fullback, but the point is you get somewhat creative with an intriguing athlete like this. Philadelphia's taken chances on players like this, from Jordan Mailata to a player like Devin Allen, who we're about to talk about, Tyree Jackson, and now a player like Griffin Hebert. Here's what Lance Zierlein had to say, NFL.com scouting write-up on the player here. Undersized tight end whose speed and fluidity in space basically make him a big slot receiver. Hebert had an excellent pro day, which should put him on the map as a priority free agent. Of course, he said this in the lead up to the draft. Evaluators could grow to appreciate his mismatch potential and run after catch talent the more tape that they consume. He needs to play with better effort as a blocker, but his athleticism, explosiveness, and speed could make him a developmental project for a team. The corresponding roster move goes back to Devin Allen here. He has been placed on injured reserve. That means that he must miss at least the next 4 games. So the Olympic speedster, I'm not sure what the injury is because the Eagles didn't disclose it. He's been put on IR. Eagles sign Hebert. That's the corresponding roster moves, and that's what Philadelphia is up to today. And this is why you subscribe to the channel, because when the Eagles make a move or they make moves, we talk about it in addition to thought-provoking Eagles content. So make sure you hit that sub button for daily and year-round videos on the Birds. As for the latest on A.J. Brown, more drama around the Eagles' #1 wide receiver. He didn't speak with the media after that Giants win on Monday. Why? He was asked about it. He said, I was taught that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't speak at all. He did say and indicate earlier this week that he would speak with the media later on this week. But according to Jeff McClain of the Philadelphia Inquirer, A.J. Brown once again declined to speak with reporters at his locker room at the NovaCare complex. And this has been a season of frustration for A.J. Brown, which is interesting for a couple of reasons, because as we're about to show you, A.J. Brown has been one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League the last 2 years, and he has put up terrific, excellent, eye-popping numbers this year. This is what we know about A.J. Brown. Back-to-back seasons in which he's put up numbers that put him up there with some of the best 2-year stretches among all wide receivers in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown, with the way that he moves, the physicality, the ability to pick up yards after the catch, to break tackles, to score touchdowns, to take the top off of the defense, he is a great, great player. He is the best Eagles wide receiver since Terrell Owens, and it's not even close. We're talking about potentially an all-time great in an Eagles uniform here. I wouldn't say that A.J. Brown is a drama queen like Terrell Owens, but A.J. Brown is an emotional player who is super, super competitive. And sometimes when people are super competitive, they are judged a little bit. And sometimes their actions, their words, their body language, the sideline spats are blown out of proportion to a certain degree. I thought the Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts, and one of A.J. Brown's best friends, put it well here when he said this about A.J. I don't know. I know he's a competitive person. He demands a lot out of himself, and that goes for anyone else in the locker room. Like I said, he has a standard for himself, and he's not compromising that. He's demanding that of himself, and he wants that out of his teammates as well, and everyone around him. I love A.J. Brown's competitive fire. That's what makes him great, because he's not settling for being a mediocre wide receiver. He runs hard routes. I think that he could do a little bit of a better job in run blocking, but there's a difference in wanting to be a great player and wanting your teammates to be great as compared to being selfish like Terrell Owens. Does A.J. Brown want the football? Of course he wants the football, because he knows that he's a game changer and he wants to be the solution to the Eagles' offensive problems. But Terrell Owens demanded the football, and he didn't care if that came at the cost of the rest of the offense doing poorly or doing well, because Terrell Owens only cared about himself. So the competitive fire, sometimes people don't have that. You can be like a Reggie Brown, a former Eagle. You can be like a Todd Pinkston, and you can have some of this natural ability. Not that they were athletic freaks by any means, but they'll kind of coast to a certain degree. You can be like a Jalen Reagor, who's mentally fickle. A.J. Brown is not, right? So I love that about him. But I will say this. When you decline to speak with the media after the game, and then you decline to speak with the media later on in the week, especially in a pressure cooker of a city like Philadelphia, with the intense media structure that is in place in Philadelphia, all that does is throw some gas onto the fire. It fuels further drama as well as speculation that A.J. Brown is unhappy. Maybe he just doesn't feel like talking with the media. Maybe he's just frustrated with everything that's going on with this Eagles offense. But here's the thing. A.J. Brown isn't the only player who's frustrated with this Eagles offense. He's not the only person in this organization who's frustrated with this Eagles offense. But when it comes down to individual statistics, I'm not sure what A.J. Brown should be concerned about or frustrated about, because look at what he's done in 2 seasons in Philadelphia. Last year, he set the record for the most receiving yards for a wide receiver in franchise history. He's on the cusp with 2 games left of breaking that. He already has more targets this year as compared to last year. He already has, with 2 games remaining, 13 more catches than he did in 2022. Now, the yards are down, the touchdowns are down, and the yards per completion are down, but that's because this Eagles offense has simply not been as explosive as it was last year, and maybe that's part of the reason why A.J. Brown is airing some of his frustrations. What are your thoughts on A.J. this year? I think this is a special player. I think this guy, from start to finish this year, has arguably been the best Eagles player and you don't get rid of special. This guy should be around with this organization for a really long time, and he's helped elevate the game of Jalen Hurts. I really like the player. I like the personality. I think that he could help himself out a little bit with maybe not doing things the way that he does sometimes, with declining to speak with the media and getting frustrated on the sideline. But in the heat of battle, tensions run high, and that's just part of the deal when you get to an uber-competitive business like the NFL. Let's round out with this. Jonathan Gannon, former Eagles defensive coordinator, going to return to South Philadelphia Lincoln Financial Field for the first time since the Eagles beat the Niners in the NFC Championship game, when famously Jonathan Gannon was in his Mercedes G-Wagon, and a fan was taking a video of him, and he put down his window, and he said to the fan, who obviously had that camera out, "We're going to fucking gut these guys." That was legendary, and he became a hero in Philadelphia for that line. If the kids are watching, I apologize, but those are his words, not mine. And everybody was hyping up Gannon because the Niners' offense really struggled. Obviously, they were without Brock Purdy, but to make a statement like that and to back it up, Eagles fans, given the intensity of those words, they were juiced up. Obviously, then what happened 2 weeks later in the Super Bowl? He got pantsed by Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and that Chiefs offense, as Patrick Mahomes had one incompletion after halftime. It came on a throwaway, and the Eagles were flustered. They were confused on all the pre-snap motion along the goal line. It Kadarius Toney, this guy Moore. They couldn't stop Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes, once again, as well as Andy Reid, they won another Super Bowl. There's a very interesting ESPN article about what happened with Jonathan Gannon, because as we know, there was the tampering situation in which the Arizona Cardinals were found guilty of, and Tim McManus did a great job of kind of outlining what happened in Philadelphia and how the after effects of this situation are still impacting the Eagles. They got a late start on their defensive coordinator search. They had to hire Sean Desai. He wasn't good. They had to basically bench and demote him for Matt Patricia. But some of the key ESPN article takeaways, the Eagles thought that Jonathan Gannon was staying. And after the NFC Championship game, Gannon was asked about the pressure in Philadelphia. He said, "Look, I'll be back for a third year." The Friday after the Super Bowl loss, Arizona called Howie Roseman, and they said they're putting in an interview request for Jonathan Gannon. But that was 10 days after the tampering call that Arizona made to Gannon in the lead up to the Super Bowl, when they kind of figured out with their general manager, Monty Ozenfort, who knows Gannon very, very well, that they were going to hire Jonathan Gannon. So what that did was it basically put the Eagles behind the eight ball, and they got a late start on their defensive coordinator search. And in turn, they missed out on hiring their number one choice, Vic Fangio, who was a consultant for the Eagles last year and grew up in Dunmore, who probably would have liked to have stayed in Pennsylvania to work for and be the defensive coordinator for a team that had 70 sacks last year, that has a lot of talent that he could have maximized in Vic Fangio's scheme. Yes, Sean Desai is a disciple of Vic Fangio. The elements of that scheme are littered across the entire NFL. Eagles missed out on Fangio. He went to the Miami Dolphins. Jonathan Gannon ended up taking that job with the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals found guilty of tampering. There were some draft implications there which benefited Philadelphia, and the after effects of that still impacting Philadelphia to this day. Very, very interesting. And because of that, the fans are going to let Jonathan Gannon know about that, and they're going to let him hear about that coming up on Sunday. Greg Gannon's tenure in Philadelphia. I might be nice here. I'm going to give him a B-, because if he was the DC for this team, would they be better this year than they were last year? I think the answer to that might be yes.